don't buy an Fx6. Just turn your Fx3 into an Fx6 with one simple accessory and save thousands of dollars. Transform your little mirrorless camera into a proper cinema rig and finally fix that awkward, small-sized top handle that ruins every handheld shoot you try and do. 4 years after its original release, the Fx6 is still one of the best cinema cameras on the market, which combines a great image, exceptional low light performance, 120 frames per second slow motion, super accurate autofocus, all while using a full frame sensor. But so does the Fx3 or A7S3. In fact, these cameras have the exact same sensor, and these smaller brothers to the Fx6 are around $2,000 to $2,500 less than the Fx6 and do almost everything the Fx6 does. In fact, these cameras can actually do several things the Fx6 can't do, which not a lot of people know about. And after creating our baby Fx6, I'm going to test these against an actual Fx6 side by side to see if you can tell the difference in image quality. First, you only need one main thing to turn your Fx3 into an Fx6. The Rigid Pro Cine Rig Top Handle Edition, which completely transforms your camera. Now, I've already turned my Panasonic S5 IIX into a mini Pixis using this method, and the same applies here. The kind folks at Rigid Pro provided me this cage for review, but no money changed hands, although I do receive commission through my referral link, which helps support the channel. You can use my discount code and link in the description for 5% off your purchase. Now, retailing for $455 US, the Rigid Pro attaches itself to your Fx3 top handle and a camera cage which is sold separately. They list compatible cages on the website. Now, you attach the Cine Rig base to the bottom of your small rig or tilter cage. This creates a similar shape to the Fx6 body, but most importantly, it gives us a V-mount adapter and 4 DTAP ports to power our camera and any other accessory you might want plugged into the camera, such as a monitor or wireless transmitter. You can run a USB-C to DTAP cable from one of the DTAP ports to your Fx3's USB-C port and keep a separate battery in the camera itself. This means that when you need to change V-mount batteries, your camera can stay powered on as you swapped, and you can keep everything powered for the whole day. Powering everything through V-mount is actually a better solution than the Fx6's BPU batteries, as you can power your camera and accessories for longer with higher watt, cheaper V-mounts, and they also have the added bonus of putting weight on the back of your camera rig, which keeps your rig itself better balanced. This Cine Rig also fixes the #1 problem with the Fx3's top handle design. It gives it additional length and a mounting rail. Now the top handle is not causing your whole rig to tip forward. You're not struggling to grip its small handle. This now feels very similar to the Fx6's top handle. Now we have the perfect size and shape for a cinema camera that has made the Fx3 more ergonomic and functional to hold. It also looks like a proper cinema camera instead of your mum's mirrorless camera you asked to borrow to pretend to be a filmmaker to fake your way through the shoot. You have two XLRs with a great preamp just like the Fx6. But unlike the Fx6, you also have a 3.5mm mic jack, allowing you to plug smaller microphones or receivers directly into the camera. The Fx6 does not have a 3.5mm jack, but your baby Fx6 does. One thing this baby Fx6 can't compete with, however, is the Fx6's internal ND system, which is truly marvelous. But we can at least give ourselves a good substitute with a Nice True Color variable ND filter. I use one of these whenever I'm filming and they are excellent with very little color shift. So now we can control our exposure in a similar way just by screwing this on the front of our lenses. Personally, I like to add a large monitor to cap things off, along with my preferred zoom lens of choice, which I've mentioned in previous videos, the Tamron 35-150, for the ultimate run and gun setup that would suit docos, weddings, corporate work, etc. But there are some other features that our baby Fx6 has that a real Fx6 doesn't. And biggest of all might be in-body image stabilization, which can really help to smooth out micro jitters when filming handheld. The Fx6 has no in-body stabilization because of the electronic ND filter we mentioned. Just take a look at these two shots side by side, one handheld on the Fx6 and one handheld on the Fx3 with the Cine Rig build out. The Fx3 lets you film in a variety of different 10-bit shooting modes, all intra or long GOP. This means you can save a lot of space on your memory cards and hard drives by shooting in more compressed codecs but still getting an excellent image. The real Fx6, on the other hand, only has two different codec options, XAVC-I for high quality and XAVC-L for low quality, meaning if you want to shoot for smaller file sizes that take up less space, your Fx3 footage will actually provide much higher quality color options than your Fx6. Yeah, it's crazy that the Fx3 and A7S III have these extra shooting modes, IBIS, and a 3.5mm jack, and your actual Fx6 has none of those things. With your new Cine Rig, you'll also have a V-mount power delivery service and 4 DTAP ports, which the real Fx6 also doesn't have. There's nothing to plug extra accessories into when you're using your Fx6, unless you buy a whole separate V-mount solution for it. Now, if you need an SDI port or timecode or that internal electronic ND, well then the baby Fx6 isn't right for you, and you should go ahead and shell out the extra money for a real Fx6. But if you don't need those things, then there's only one thing left to address. How much of a difference is there in image quality between the Fx3 and the Fx6? I mean, are you really getting higher quality when you buy an Fx6? Take a look at these side-by-side comparisons I shot between these cameras, both shooting at their highest quality, both with the same Tamron zoom lenses at the same aperture with a 1/8 Pro Mist on the front of the lens. I used the Nice True Color ND filter to control the light rather than the internal ND filter of the Fx6, just to make sure the image comparison was as similar as possible. Then I simply applied the same phantom LUTs to the images and tweaked the exposure, but no further color correction adjustments were made. Both cameras were set to 5600 Kelvin. Now, these tests were shot with the camera in the same position and very similar lighting conditions outside and inside. Now, take a close look at these side by side. Can you tell which is which? All right, let's look again. Did you guess correctly? I know it might be somewhat cliche to do the blind test, but I do think it illustrates a point, and that is just how close the image quality is between these two cameras. They are almost identical. Now, there are very subtle differences, but it's just so minimal. The Fx3 A7S III looks a little bit sharper, a little bit crunchier. Maybe the highlight roll-off isn't quite as smooth, but it's so hard to tell. I mean, you tell me, would you pay $2,000 more for the marginally improved Fx6 image? Because while I do acknowledge that the Fx6 seems to be a fraction better, I really thought these tests would show a much bigger gap between the look and feel of both cameras. But what I see is that they're really close, and this kind of confirms my decision not to buy an Fx6, but just make my own using the Cine Rig and an Fx3 or A7S III. I personally don't need those extra ports for most projects, and I do need an extra $2,000 in my pocket. But hey, that's just me. I'm all for trying to find the balance of gear that punches above its weight, that saves me money at the same time. While waiting for the official updated version from Rigid Pro, I've been using a Frankenstein version of this baby Fx6 build with my A7S III for several months now, and it has been my corporate go-to for everything. It's made what was a constant annoyance for me of having to build up this camera and try and balance it into just an absolute pleasure to work with. I leave my camera set up in the bag, I pull it out, attach a V-mount, and I'm ready to go. Simple, easy, fast. Now, if you want to see me create a camera rig that can be broken down in a matter of seconds with different parts and can work with almost any mirrorless camera, click on the link beside me. As always, I am the Savage Filmmaker, and I'll see you when I see you.